Hello viewers, welcome to the YouTube channel Lex Consilium Foundation. I'm Major General Neelendra Kumar on the playlist in Similie, and today our resource person is Senior Advocate Sudhesh Pai. He's a senior advocate and also one of the front ranking legal historians in India, and he has put in tremendous amount of research to bring out the contribution and the profile of some very eminent law practitioners, judges, and lawyers in the country. And in that, I'm talking today about Sir Alladi Krishnaswamy Ayyar. You mentioned his case in your book around page 228, Legends in Law, which for the viewers we will show title page of the book and from where you can order it in this video itself. Now, Alladi Krishnaswamy Ayyar was of the vintage and the period 1883 to 1953, and that means he came into free India, independent India, and he is said to be a legal colossus, rose to the height of professional success and prosperity. My question to you, Sudhesh ji, is that you have written in your book, Sir Alladi's saying, and I quote, when a person crosses a river, he ought not to forget that he left the other bank behind. Now, what's the idea behind this saying? Would you please explain it by giving some example to the viewers?
As you said, and as I have written, Sir Alladi Krishnaswamy Ayyar is perhaps one of the most remarkable lawyers, so well equipped in every branch of law. It's difficult to find another like him. And if you say X is an Alladi, I think that's the greatest tribute any lawyer could ever aspire. He was virtually raised from the lap of adversity to the pinnacle of prosperity. He came from a very, very financially very poor background. His father died when Alladi was 15 and was in the high school. He was a scholarship student. The father was very ill and it was almost certain that he was dying. But the son could not wait on him because there was the examination, and if he didn't write the examination, he was losing his scholarship. That was the kind of circumstances in which he was. So he did go finish the exam, then come back and attended to the funeral rites. Of course, thereafter, it said his elder brother took care of the family. And this is this position in which the family was. And this is what Sir Alladi never forgot. And just saying, when you cross over, you should never forget the other bank from which you had come. It is
your
this
foundation and your root, your beginning.
Never be forgot. Yes. And there are, if you look at his life, his prosperity was such later and very soon. 10 years of his joining the bar, he was at the height of his profession, including financially, intellectually, of course, including financially, that he had the courage to spend all his savings and build a palatial house in the heart of Madras.
Okay.
At Lusk Corner in Mylapore, which was considered a very posh locality and inhabited by leading lawyers that time.
Right.
So he had the courage to spend everything he had because he knew he had the confidence that he would earn. Point is, at the height of his prosperity, I understand he had a row of sites and building the whole road. That was the kind of money he had. But he insisted that his children, one of whom rose to be a Chief Justice, one was a great mathematician. That's not the thing. He insisted that when they went to school or college, only one way the car was given. One way they had to come by bus so that they knew what life is. That it is not always, not velvet always. So that they were reminded of what the father went through. And he insisted that every Saturday they played with the students who were residing at the Ramakrishna Mission Students Hostel, who came from poorer background. Yes. You didn't have any airs about yourself. You mixed with others. So he not only
great idea behind it.
Lived that way, and he was always helpful, particularly to the students who could not pursue their studies because of financial problems. He would always support them. So that's the whole background of Sir Alladi.
So you have already covered that at the beginning of his law practice, and you said that within 10 years he was at the pinnacle. But in those early years he could not afford any transport
yes,
to go to his senior, and maybe
yes,
that he just footed
yes.
it. Yes. So
He
you
could not
dropped out.
afford anything. So it is said, you had in those days horse carriages called Victoria. And Alladi, as a young lawyer, going from his home to the senior and then to the court, would hang on to the back of the carriage without the carriage driver noticing it because he couldn't afford to pay anything. And the driver would, use his whip to drive the horse. And the whip, when it came back, would also hit the person hanging at the back of the carriage.
Yes.
So he went through all this. And in the evenings, after court, he would sit on the Marina Beach and read all the Privy Council judgments.
Yes.
Like Sir Jamshedji Kanga in Bombay.
Yes.
Alladi here, spent his early days when there was not much work reading all the judgments of the Privy Council, which, later he knew by heart all those judgments. So that's how he very profitably used his time, though in very straitened circumstances financially.
Further, in this same connection, when you indicated his love, his time that he devoted to study of legal literature, you have remarked on page 235 of your book, the famous quote or the saying of Sir Alladi that a barber spends more time on the tools of his trade than some of the lawyers today on the library.
Had perhaps the best law library, books on every subject in the law. International law, constitutional law were not subjects that were the subject of anyone's practice.
Yes.
I've heard someone say in those days, Sir Alladi had expertise in constitutional law when it was not part of anyone's practice, when it did not give you bread, leave alone butter. But he was thorough, not constitutional
He
law.
was very well versed with that too.
Yes. And his library was such a vast collection. And the most important thing is he would have read everything there, read and marked, very
Sidelined and underlined, and yes.
yeah, with the pencil. And many lawyers who had their own books quite often borrow Sir Alladi's books because they would have the advantage of his
Yes.
comments.
Benefit of his remarks.
There. And so he believed that a lawyer who earns must also spend on the books. There were lawyers who did not. And it is in that connection that he said that even a barber spends more on his tools.
Yes.
And he was unkind to the great judge about whom we have just now spoken, Sir Vardacharya. It is said that Sir Vardacharya, when he was in charge of the Federal Court Library, was very, very stingy in spending money, though it was not his money, it was the government money.
Yeah.
And Alladi was furious. And later, Patanjali Shastri, who rose to be the second Chief Justice of India and Alladi's junior, after he was in charge of the Supreme Court Library, he took suggestions from Sir Alladi and developed the library of the Supreme Court. We must, talking of Sir Alladi, we must not miss that apart from all his, great success as a lawyer, he was Advocate General from 1928 to 1944. Continuously in Madras. But his greatest is more difficult the case, the more complex the case, the more he reveled in it to entangle the intricacies of a
Went
case.
to the root of the matter. Yes.
And he was so thorough and he knew the original. But his great break came in 1937 after the federal court was established. Because though he was thorough in all branches of law, it was constitutional law which was really his forte and his love.
Or put to practice there.
Yeah, and the opportunity came with the establishment of the federal court. You have in Hidayatullah's memoirs,
Yes.
was a Governor General's reference, just like you have the President's reference and all now under the Government of India Act, the Governor General's reference to the federal court on some levy of some tax. And Hidayatullah mentions Sir V.L. Mittal,
Yes.
who was then the Advocate General of India.
Yes.
That is equivalent to the Attorney General, so Motilal Setalvad and Sir Alladi. And he compares these three. I think Mittal was the Advocate General and appeared for the Government of India. Setalvad appeared for the Governor General in Council. And Sir Alladi was the amicus of the federal court to assist the court. Hidayatullah says one took it on his shield, one took it on his sword. But Sir Alladi took it straight and gave back to the judges. And the difference was between a professor who prepares for the next day's classes, and a lifetime first rate scholar who knows everything all the time. That first rate scholar was Sir Alladi. This, of course, this equipment came in handy. His contribution in the Constituent Assembly to the drafting of a constitution, he was in the drafting committee, is something extraordinary. So was his ultimately after the constitution came. Unfortunately, he could practice in the Supreme Court only for a couple of years. He was not keeping well and he died very early. He was only 70 when he died in 1953. Before that, of course, he also did the great service of his opinion to the president. This problem of whether the president is bound by the advice of the Council of Ministers to assent to a bill, the Hindu Code bill there.
Dr. Rajendra Prasad.
Dr. Rajendra Prasad himself, who had presided over the deliberations of the Constituent Assembly and knew what the Constitution was.
Yes.
Somehow, after he came to occupy the position of the president, had a doubt whether he could decide on his own, that he's an elected president and not a hereditary monarch like in England.
Yes.
Because he wrote to the Prime Minister, and both the Prime Minister and the President sought the opinion of
Sir Alladi.
General Motilal Settleward and Sir Alladi. Of course, both of them very unequivocally said that there is no question of the President deciding anything on his own. He is bound by the aid and advice of the Council.
Aid and advice, yes.
But that opinion, again, is a marvelous piece of legal literature. There are two letters that he wrote, both in 1951, and which his son has set out in extenso in his biography. Sir Alladi Krishnaswamy Ayyar, his first son, eldest son, became the Chief Justice of Andhra Pradesh.
Yes.
And he authored the book Statesmen Among Jurists,
Right.
with biography of Alladi Krishnaswamy Ayyar, where he has set out those letters in extenso. And the man's knowledge was such that it is said he was ailing and resting at home. Some client came to meet for an opinion. Of course, the father was not well, so the son met him, the same Kupswami, asked him to come after some time because he wanted to look up, he had his doubts. The father heard everything inside.
Right.
Called the son in and said, "What are you looking for? It is this, is it? This, I heard everything you said, the clause in the trust deed. That clause, the trust deed would be void for uncertainty, and the references, you go to volume so-and-so, Halsbury's Laws of England on the subject of charities, and you have the case in the footnote at page so-and-so." Ailing Sir Alladi could do this. So I think we can imagine for ourselves
Yes.
what was the kind of man he was. Great is the word.
Thank you very much. And stay with us. This conversation will continue. Thank you.